Welcome to the Global Marketing Show, where we explore how language and culture impact global business. I'm Wendy Pease, your host and president of Rapport International. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 145 of the Global Marketing Show. I'm your host, Wendy Pease, and I am flying solo today because I have some updates to give you. First, I want to remind you that the show is sponsored by Rapport International, the company that provides you with high-quality written translation services in over 200 languages. And so looking at AI, but it's still not culturally adapted, but a bunch of creative ideas on how to use it and how to get better. So they're always open for a free consultation. The team is really great. They always provide us with a tidbit, and today's is about prospering. So there's a Chinese proverb that says, if you want to prosper in 1 year, grow grain. If you want to prosper in 10 years, grow trees. And if you want to prosper in 100 years, grow people. I just love that. So let me know what your thoughts are on it. How would you grow people? By reproducing or by coaching them? I'll leave it up to you. I want to talk a little bit about why I started the podcast. And it happened after I learned about the U.S. Department of Commerce statistics about companies that export. Less than 5% of U.S. companies export, and of those that do, they have higher revenues, profits, valuations, they pay higher salaries, and they have greater stability. And 98% of them are small and mid-sized businesses, so it's not a size issue. So why do you think that is? Well, one time I was talking to a trade advisor about this, and she said that she's heard so many people say to her or fess up that they're afraid of other languages and cultures. And so that's what holds them back from exporting. I've heard that. I've heard a lot of companies just export into English only speaking countries. And I've heard people just say, well, the US is big. So I've got plenty of marketplace here. And I've also noticed that many CEOs of companies that do export either live outside their home country, so they've immigrated into the United States, or they had international experience as their childhood. My father was in international agriculture, so we lived at ag research centers around the world. I lived in Mexico, Taiwan, and the Philippines. And in Mexico, I went to a school where half my day was in Spanish and the other half a day was in English. And it just gave me a different way of thinking and early exposure to language that has always helped me in my life. In Taiwan, we lived near Shanghai, where they had never seen blonde-haired kids running around. So me and my two brothers, we were still young. When we were in town, people would want to come over and touch our skin or touch our hair. And it wasn't scary. It was actually really interesting just because they were so curious and they wanted to engage and connect with us. At that point, there was no cable or no Netflix, so people weren't seeing visuals of places outside the world. And I have wonderful memories of going to the town fairs with seeing the full roasted pig with the apple in its mouth and then all the food set up down wooden tables down the middle of the dirt main boulevard. And of the Chinese theater when people would get up and they'd speak in the real loud voices and the sing-songy. So, experiences that I've never been able to have in the United States. And when I lived in the Philippines, we were actually there in the summer, and I didn't have to go to school because it was our summer break, but all my friends were going there. So I decided to go to school. And when you go there, remember, we're an ag community, small town, fields and dirt all around us. And when you went to school, they checked your hands to make sure that your nails were short and clean. And if they weren't, the teacher would take a ruler and whack your hand. So my first day there, I got my hands whacked. And that was, I think it was more emotionally surprising than it was painful. But it's always cracked me up that here you are in the middle of a farming community, and at school, your nails have to be the right way. Through these experiences, I learned how to read body language, how to share interests, even if we don't share a language. I learned words that are just not translatable into other languages. And I found that people are really interesting, especially people that are very different from me, or they do things that I don't expect. So it's always kept me interested in travel and cultures and sitting next to people that aren't like me. And it's made my life very full. Now, being the owner of Rapport International, I hear great stories all the time about international travel, and I love hearing them. And I thought, oh, it's such a shame some of these stories and these good experiences and these suggestions for other international trade people aren't captured. And so I started the podcast to really share a lot of these stories. And since people are afraid of language and culture, that's a lot of what we talk about on the podcast. This is the third iteration of the podcast since we launched. At first, we ran hour-long podcasts and we brought a lot more of the personal stories in. And then we decided to shorten the podcast to about 30 minutes and really focus on the stories about business and capture those incredible international trade stories. This is our third iteration, and we stepped back this summer and we thought long and hard about, do we want to continue or have we captured all the stories? And we decided that we do want to go on. There's still more stories that we haven't heard. And I love doing it. I love talking to the people that have international trade experience. They've found creative ways to expand their businesses and be successful. And they're willing to share their challenges and their mistakes so we can all learn from them. So I decided I definitely want to keep gathering and sharing these stories. So we've decided to create a new look, which you might know on wherever you access your podcast. We've got new tech behind the scenes. We've got new editors, new guests, and we're adjusting the subject matter. We're going to keep the stories and the helpful information, and we're going to get into some of the hot topics going on in the markets now. Topics like tariffs, free trade agreements, currency issues, trade advisors, all that other junk that can really influence global marketing, because it's still a hot market out there. And now we have more exciting news that I want to share with you. From listening to these podcast episodes, we decided there was a book in there. So Hannah Penz and I wrote a book based on podcast interviews. The book is called The Secrets of Global Sales, and it's launching on November 4th, but you can pre-order it now. I wanted to write this because they were key episodes that focused on areas that I hadn't heard other people talk about before, or they had some insights from their experience that I thought would be very valuable for people laying out a global strategy and then trying to build their expansion plan. We've got stories in there about AI and translation. We've got stories about how do you bond with your customers when you're in country so they really feel a connection to you. Stories about launching too fast, stories about launching too slow. So I'd love for you to read it and tell me what your favorite chapter is or what you learned the most from. So again, that will launch in November 4th of 2025. You can buy it on the Rapport International website. If you go to the resource section there, you can go to a landing page and order your book, or you can go to Amazon and get it there. And there is a print copy and a electronic version, so whichever way you do it. My first book, I did an audio recording for that. We haven't done that yet, but if you're interested in it, let me know. So we're taking pre-orders now. So that is another huge thing that came from the podcast, listening to all these wonderful stories, putting them together in a book, and now offering that so people can get in whatever format they want. And each chapter will link back to the actual podcast episode. So if people want more information, they can. The other thing that we're doing in this book, which is really exciting, is that we have a chapter in there with bonus offers and resources. So you can go to the link, and we're updating this continually. The bonus offers is from service providers where they've offered something of value to help you in your exporting journey. And then the resources are all the resources that are available to help exporters, particularly from the United States. If you want to go to trade shows or get grants for your translation, or do research or background checks on potential distributors you want to use in market, right from the book, you'll be able to go to links to all these resources to help you get started. Our balance of trade is so far off in the United States. We import tons of stuff, and we're sending containers empty out to the rest of the world. And so many countries around the world want U.S. products. And so that's why I am just trying to do what I can do to help people who are exporting. So love your feedback, love engagement, reach out to me. All my contact links are on the show notes. I'm very active on LinkedIn particularly. So reach out and connect with me there. Tell me about challenges you're having, and we'll get people on the podcast to cover those. And if you are interested in being on the guest and you've got a story to share, love to hear from you. You can go to rapporttranslations.com and go to resources podcast and then apply to be a guest. So we'll also put that in the show notes. So this is all for now. I appreciate you hanging with us. If you enjoy an episode, give us a 5-star. Make sure to follow us, because we're going to be having regular episodes being released from now on, now that we've relaunched the show. So, au revoir, hasta luego, adios, au revoir. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Global Marketing Show. We started this podcast to capture the stories of people who do global marketing and work for companies that export, since those companies have higher revenues, higher profits, higher valuations, higher salaries, and more stability, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And if you know somebody who would be a good guest, introduce them to me, your host, Wendy Mackenzie Pease. If you'd like to learn more about global marketing or language translation and interpretation, visit Rapport International's Resource Center at www.rapporttranslations.com. Au revoir, hasta luego, ciao for now.